nation's worst droughts. But the picture has improved, and this growing season should begin with more moisture than last year. We look at the improving conditions and hear from growers. Plus, conservation through competition. We learn about the TAPS contest. And calving season isn't always picture perfect. We meet a family sharing their ups and downs. It's time to grow. A record-setting streak comes to an end. For the first time in 146 weeks, less than 40% of the country is in drought. But unfortunately, Nebraska remains at the epicenter of where that drought persists. But as Taylor Leverett reports, conditions are improved.
The puddles from melted snow may not pair well with freshly cleaned tires, but for farmers like Chris Nelson, any moisture from Mother Nature is welcomed.
We're all very, very happy to see that after what we saw last year. It just kept getting drier and drier, and we were running more water through our pivots and having to irrigate more. And then last winter, we didn't get any moisture whatsoever.
And no moisture is what Chris says was a planting recipe for disaster.
Stalks rot over the winter. Last winter, they did not rot at all. And we were breaking things on our planters that we don't normally break, and bolts were breaking, and we just wore things out because the ground was like trying to plant into concrete.
As of February 21st, the National Drought Mitigation Center at the University of Lincoln has many parts of the state still in extreme or severe drought. Experts say the snowmelt is helping to add moisture, but it's too soon to say we're out of drought territory.
We've come a long ways. We usually like to say it takes a while to get out of drought. I mean, as far as the pastures, it can take as long as 4 years to really get full recovery.
But Todd remains optimistic as he helps to be the eyes and ears for farmers like Chris Nelson.
We've had probably close to 20 inches of snow in some cases, where I think that usually we say for a snow it takes somewhere between 8 to 12 inches to get an inch of moisture.
We're not captivating or capturing all the moisture that we can, but it's still better than nothing, and it's helping. The snow covers the ground too, and it helps rot the trash and start decomposing it, so it makes our machinery easier to go through with machinery due to the stalks being more rotten and able to tear them up, and they're more breakable.
And whether it's rain or snow, corn and soybean farmer Chris Nelson welcomes moisture either way.
We're just going to enjoy the fact that we have some moisture, and we're not going to be planting into the mall parking lot or anything like that.
Reporting, I'm Taylor Leverett.
Turning conservation into competition. That's one of the goals of a program known as TAPS. In a year of drought, Nebraska farmers still produced good crops thanks to irrigation. But whether it's water or fertilizer, too much can have consequences.
One of the things that we worry about is like nitrogen and applying too much nitrogen.
Dirk Charlson was intrigued by a contest where he'd make decisions on how a plot of corn would be managed. Normally, he'd put 200 pounds of fertilizer on a field, but he got by with half that rate.
50% reduction in how much nitrogen I'm using, and I'm still yielding pretty well.
The TAPS contest has paid out cash prizes up to $2 grand as they pit different practices against each other.
Create an excitement level, and that's through a competition.
Many Nebraska farmers face restrictions on how much water and fertilizer they can apply.
How are we going to be sustainable in an economical and environmental sense?
Friendly competition may bring out the best.
One, I learned something, but I have a little bit of a competitive nature, so I was kind of fortunate. I was in the top 3 years in a row.
Some competitors want to test what they're already doing.
And then there's the other group that wants to think a little bit different in terms of trying something completely new or how far they can push the envelope.
Participants get access to cutting-edge technology, and while there are winners and losers, the hope is folks will see ways to improve their farms.
And then we can expose the producers and those that are competing to the latest technology that can really push us to be efficient and profitable.
And they will be kicking off a new growing season with the TAPS competition, with an event coming up in central Nebraska in a couple of weeks. You can find out more on our website, nebraska.tv. And we plan to have a team too. We're planning to plant corn under the pivot and make management decisions throughout the season, and you can join us. Make sure to follow NTV's Grow on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, as we will be asking for your input throughout the season. And to learn more about TAPS, they've got a kickoff event March 16th in Donovan. Meanwhile, farmers remain critical of how the administration is handling a biotech corn dispute with Mexico. As we've been following, Mexico's president issued a decree against biotech corn. Congressman Adrian Smith has called on President Biden to enforce a free trade deal. And in the bigger picture, he says the president has not made trade a priority.
President Trump really leaned into trade. There were some components that I didn't really care for, and many others didn't as well, but simply prioritizing the leveling of the playing field got a lot of things done. Got USMCA passed in a very bipartisan way. And in fact, there were more Democrats who voted for USMCA, a trade agreement, than even Republicans. Of course, they've been in the majority, and they were at that time as well, but it was a Trump priority. So here were all of these Democrats voting for a Trump priority. Now we need to enforce it.
The White House counters that agricultural exports reached a record high of around $200 billion last year, and they say the administration is engaged in trade talks on several fronts. However, Congressman Smith says the U.S. is leaving opportunities on the table for adversaries like China. A father and son in Logan County facing multiple charges after numerous livestock were found abandoned or dead on their property. Court records say it all started in January with cattle out in the area of Avenue 70 and Road 10 in Logan County. A deputy said they looked neglected. About a week later, a deputy saw cattle in a pasture with no indication they were fed or watered. A search warrant was obtained where deputies found more than 70 head of abandoned or neglected cattle and 8 head of dead cattle. Now 41-year-old Matthew Mikuloik and 75-year-old Larry Mikuloik are both charged in Logan County Court with 6 felony counts of abandoning or cruelly neglecting livestock, and they are set to appear in court March 14th. Bringing new life into the world either here on the farm or at the hospital. Still to come, we'll meet our farm family of the month. But first, we are going to wrap things up. FFA week and 4-H month coming up next.
This portion of NTV's Grow is sponsored by Acres Equipment, solutions for every field. Acres has what you need to get the job done.
4-H month has come to a close, but not before Sarah Kirkley filed this report.
Back here in Nebraska, volunteers keep 4-H going. We learned about it last week. Now Jennifer with Nebraska Extension joining us to tell us ways we can honor them. Jennifer, this is the last day of Nebraska 4-H month, but we're not done celebrating, right?
No, sure not. Today is 4-H Appreciation Day of our professionals, but we would be truly lost without our volunteers. We have over 12,000 volunteers statewide, making a difference in the lives of youth. And those volunteers might be club leaders, project leaders, county fair superintendents, shooting sports coaches, and we definitely aren't done celebrating them yet.
So how are we going to continue to celebrate those volunteers?
We have a number of statewide awards for our volunteers each year, and one of the exciting parts about these awards is that the nominations can really come from anyone, 4-H members, families, staff, other volunteers. We're going to be recognizing emerging volunteers, so our volunteers that have made an impact in 3 years or less, our outstanding volunteers, those volunteers that are dedicated, they make an impact over time, an outstanding youth volunteer, and then we also have a multi-generational family award to celebrate a family with more than one generation giving back to the program.
So how do we nominate someone?
If you visit our website, 4h.unl.edu/volunteer, you'll find a quick link for volunteer recognition. There are descriptions for each of the awards, and you can find the information you would need to make a nomination. To nominate for any of these awards, you have to answer just a couple questions and give us contact information for that volunteer so we can follow up with them. Nominations are open to anyone to submit, and you don't have to be a 4-H member to appreciate a 4-H volunteer.
And the deadline's coming up, right?
Yes, so our nominations are due by March 15th for these state level awards so that we can announce our winners during the week of the volunteer on April 21st. And each of these winners will receive a special pass to the final celebration that we'll have during the 2023 Nebraska State Fair.
Such a great opportunity. A lot of these people don't look for recognition, but it's fun to recognize them. Thank you so much.
Definitely. Thank you.
State wrestling and basketball, it seems, get all the attention this time of year, but some kids are also competing in the classroom. More than 600 students from 18 schools across central Nebraska competed in district career development events through FFA in Hastings recently. Students say they learned career skills that apply even if they don't have a farm background.
I think it teaches you a lot. I don't come from like a family that lives on a farm, but through different agricultural classes and different competitions, I've learned a lot just about the world around me.
Students in this district come from Alma to Sutton. Teachers say competitions test their knowledge and skill in a variety of subject areas, including a number of hands-on contests. Governor Jim Pillen celebrates National Pig Day by naming the office pig. Fourth graders selected the name Petunia from the governor's cowboy hat. The metal pig has become an unofficial mascot of the governor's office, noting the governor's background as both a veterinarian and hog farmer. Pillen explained the metal pig is a gilt, a young adult female that has not yet produced offspring. Our Grow Weather Outlook is next, and later, calving season isn't always picture perfect, and we'll see what story a picture can tell.
NTV's Grow Weather is sponsored by Acres Equipment, solutions for every field. Acres has what you need to get the job done.
This week's drought monitor showing some improvement, especially down in Kansas. 15% of the northeast corner of Kansas now drought-free. On the other hand, abnormally dry in Kansas, 85%, 72.75% moderate, severe 65.5%. Extreme still right up there, 52.33%, and the exceptional at 35%. There is a little sliver in the extreme southeast corner of Nebraska that is 25% of 1% drought-free. Then the rest of the state, 99.75% abnormally dry, moderate drought in Nebraska, 98.33%, severe 77%. The extreme drought, though, not as bad as Kansas at 40%, and down in the exceptional drought to 6.1% in the northeast corner of the Cornhusker State. As we look at the prognostication, if you will, as far as temperatures are concerned, for the rest of March, we see below normal, especially across Nebraska and the northern tier counties. And then the southern part of Kansas will see normal in the temperature category. As far as precipitation, normal precip most of Nebraska and Kansas. However, above normal, the panhandle, the northern part of the state, and eastern Kansas above normal. Temperature-wise, March, April, May, normal temperatures for Nebraska, Kansas, except below normal, or actually above normal, for the southwest corner. And then the precip outlook, just a little sliver in eastern Kansas above normal. Otherwise, normal precip for the spring planting season ahead. And that is fantastic news. The Grow Weather report for this week looks cold and snowy as a winter storm complex heads our way. Temperatures the warmest for Monday and then dropping from there. Odds for snow pretty good, especially Wednesday and Thursday. And those lows drop all the way down to 18 come Friday morning. Normal highs for this time of year for the week ahead should be around 47. We're going to fall about 10 degrees short of that, but right on track for normal lows, which should be 24. This week, we will average around 25. Our proverb, a dry March, wet April, and cool May fill barn, cellar, and bring much hay. Rain in March, poor harvest. So we will see. We need that rain, though, in March. That is your Grow Report for this week. Join us again next time when, once again, it will be time to grow.
If you're out calving, we want to see your photos. Go to our website, nebraska.tv, and chime in.
The Nebraska Tourism Commission says agritourism and adventure travel are growing fields here in the state.
If we don't have them, let's learn them.
This year, Nebraska Tourism combined its agritourism workshop with Grow Nebraska's Marketech Conference.
The marketing sessions, those are applicable to all small businesses and businesses. Everyone needs to know how to effectively market their brand, their destination. So all of that is kind of the main reason that we decided to collaborate, and really we wanted to grow our audience.
Barjay says one of the key components of agritourism is showing visitors where their food comes from.
Telling that story and having people be able to visit producers throughout the state to gain that insight and that additional knowledge is of huge value. It not only helps them to understand how our food systems work here in the United States, but gain insight into the working family operation of an ag business.
But agritourism and adventure travel not only benefit tourists, but also farmers.
If you are involved in a farm or ranch and you either do hunting or any kind of agritourism, that's adding another revenue stream, which again adds profitability, jobs, and just really makes our state shine.
It can range all the way from corn mazes to tanking. Barjay says the pandemic wasn't all bad news for adventure travel and agritourism.
A lot more people were getting outside because that was a place that they could socially distance and still try and safely experience, some of what Nebraska has to offer. So we actually saw an increase in some places of visitation, like the Niobrara River, for instance, had more tubers in 2020 than any year prior. It was record-breaking.
She says the sky is the limit for what farmers can come up with to attract visitors. The Nebraska Tourism Commission encourages those farmers with creative ideas to contact them to receive business advice on agritourism. Reporting in the Tri-Cities, I'm Risel Ventura.
Life on the farm isn't always picture perfect, but what story a picture can tell will be in our Farm Family of the Month coming up.
Ag Outlook on NTV's Grow is driven by Cornhusker Toyota Honda, home of the Toyota Tacoma and Tundra trucks, and Nebraska's only dual Toyota Honda dealer.
Bringing new life into the world. It's what both Andy and Katie Blesson do, each in their own unique way.
Normally it's pretty easy going, but
when it came time to tag the first calf of the season, Mama Cow wasn't happy on a moment now liked and shared thousands of times on Facebook.
Zoomed in, no idea how I caught that picture.
Andy and Katie Blesson strive to be transparent as beef producers, and the photo keeps with that spirit. Katie is part of a young cattlemen's group, and they've both been involved with Farm Bureau as they try to advocate.
Impact the agricultural world in our county, in our state, in our nation.
And when they call it a family farm, they welcome 4-H kids to keep their cattle here.
Not just what lives in our house, but anybody's welcome here.
a diversified operation.
We run cow-calf pair, and then we run row crop, corn, soybeans, and alfalfa.
That little bit of row crop that we've been blessed with, and Andy's parents are a big part of why we get to be here.
You know, it's just been a great privilege and opportunity that God's blessed us with to work on the family farm.
Both Andy and Katie are accustomed to overnight calls, Andy with calves, and Katie as a labor and delivery nurse.
Yeah, my grandma always asked me if I'm at my paying job or my not paying job. So my not paying job is helping Andy on the farm or taking care of kids.
And the not paying job pays in ways no other job can. And yes, Andy escaped this run-in with no ill effects, except maybe an inflated ego for a couple of days.
Now I just joke around and say I'm famous, but...
And NTV's Grow honors the Blessings as our Farm Family of the Month. And a program note as we close, due to the Oscars broadcast, you can skip next week, and we'll see you back here again 2 weeks from now as we see how agriculture makes Nebraska grow.